Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Mike Lamb of Focal Point, Utah, and my cohort here is Adam Gaheb of Focal Point Cary. Um, Coming to you after the 4th of July. I hope everyone
Hmm.
had a wonderful celebration of the birth of our country,
Yeah, that's right.
and had some fun, ate some hot dogs, maybe some potato salad, whatever. So.
All the staples, right?
Yeah. So,
Nice.
welcome to us talking today about business. And we wanted to jump into a conversation, and we're kind of going to do a group of episodes built around how to generate more revenue and
Yep.
grow, and kind of focus on that because that's, as a business coach, something that I get asked a lot about right away. And we also want to add value to your business. And so it comes up pretty much in the first conversation.
It does. That doesn't mean we necessarily tackle it in the first conversation, but
Right.
it's one of those things, Mike, where it's like, yes, okay, that's on the top of everyone's mind, or at least the back of everyone's mind. But the reality is, if you don't have the business right in a good, healthy segment underneath you, it doesn't matter if you go out and you start adding and you start bringing in more people, more clients, more sales, more revenue, etc., because it's built on a sloppy foundation. So while I agree everyone asks about it, it's always okay. Well, let's see where we are in our evaluation of where the business is from a health standpoint, and then we'll go blossom out. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Get
like to
that
build things that are
clarity, right?
sustaining, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
Yeah.
course.
Clarifying things and making sure we know what we're doing as a company or as a
Hmm.
business.
Hmm.
Um, and who we are in our product. So we get clarity on who our customers are,
Oh,
who
the first
we
thing.
are,
Yep.
and what it looks like as we grow. So um, the clarity on the customer is so important.
I
So
think there's a whole
important.
bunch of things that we probably could make several episodes about things that we have to do prior, but the heck with it. Let's
Yeah.
just jump right in, man.
We're gonna jump
Ask
into
away. Lead me out, brother.
well, the most obvious and first thing is, how do we increase our revenue by selling more and
Mm.
expanding our customers and growing that? You know, for instance, if I'm running a restaurant, how do I get more people in the door? Um,
So I always
and are
ask
we
a couple
focusing on
questions.
that?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people say that they're always focusing on it, but then if you get down to specifics, they can't really tell you what they're doing that's different. So the way I always try to bridge that conversation, Mike, is pretty easy. I ask two things. Number one is it really new clients that you want, or is it just sales? And are we looking at repeat sales? So are we trying to get your existing clients that already know, like, and trust you back in the door more often? Or are we trying to get those same clients back in the door, but at a higher price point? Are we adding new services? So there's the find new versus find existing.
Yeah.
The reason why that's the first question I ask is I find that there's a huge majority of businesses out there that are not following back up, and their follow-up process is not the best. So I think that they're losing a lot on the table by not reaching back out to those that have purchased from them in the last, let's call it, 6 months.
Yeah.
Uh, if it's a restaurant, typically when you go order out, right? I order pizza from down the street. Within probably 72 hours, I'll get an email thanking me for my patronage, asking me how things were, and then probably like a day or two after that, I'll get a coupon. So it's like those outreaches are automated these days, and it's like I almost expect them. If I don't get them, like, well, hey, but what the heck happened? So
And
question one,
so,
new
yeah,
versus old. What do you do?
we want to keep every customer, right?
Every
So,
single one.
first of
Yep.
all, yep, we old, in my opinion, is probably our best source to get more customers.
Yep.
So if we're trying to get new, we need to be doing what we're supposed to be doing with our old customers or existing. Well, instead of old, I don't want to talk about their age. Existing customers and maintaining them and keeping them. And I've actually spent a lot of time with one of my clients recently. We dig into how to retain and maintain their customers. It's an insurance business, and
Hmm.
they're trying their number one source of um, business obviously is maintaining and retaining their existing clients. And
Sure.
so what are we doing to be different? You talked about, pizza company sending an email afterwards, and we got to get creative like that. But we also need to make sure our clients feel valued and that we're taking care of them. So I would say the number one thing is if we have a client base, obviously there's businesses that are just starting and trying to create,
Hmm.
but if we have that, we need to maintain and keep our existing clients, and we need to be creative in how we're reaching out.
Okay.
Um, Personalizing it is something that I think is really important to the individual. I work a lot with businesses that are in the trades and services, and personalizing a card or doing simple things to make
Mhm.
our clients feel valued is huge. Like
Yep.
you can't even I can't even put in words how much value that adds, but keeping the clients that we have, number
Okay.
one.
So you're going to go with retention. Let's stick with retention here. I'm going to take a slightly different spin on it though. So retention's fantastic, but when you say it's easier to keep your existing clients than it is to go and get new ones, I think that's wholeheartedly true. But why is that? So once again, I mentioned that these are people that already know, like, and trust you. Okay, right off the bat, they've already done business with you before. If you did a good job, then they're going to most likely come back. But here is where I think we fall down a lot. Let's just stick with my pizza reference here, right? So someone reaches back out, hey Adam, how was your pie? Blah blah blah. Great. Just wanted to check in, make sure everything was great. They don't ask for anything. What is the number one rule in sales in general? You must ask in order to receive. New businesses, you throw a sign up. We're going to go with a Field of Dreams reference. Once again, we're old. Um, if you build it, they will come. If you put up a sign and you open your doors, they will come. Well, that's not true. That doesn't work, right? I mean, you and I know coaches that do the same thing. Oh, I'm available. Come hire me. Well, that doesn't work. So what do? You have to make sure that you have an ask. And so, once again, the pizza reference. It's not, hey, do you know anyone else who's hungry and loves pizza? No, 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 no. Stop that. It's, how was my service? Not, did you enjoy your order? Don't give me something generic, but be very specific. Did you enjoy your service? If so, would you mind writing me a Google review? Would you mind writing me a Yelp? Would you mind writing me something that shares your experience with others? So execute the follow-up and make a request. So simple. How many people do it? Not a whole
Uh,
bunch.
yeah,
What
not
do you thought, man?
not. uh, I agree with you completely. It's we need to own space, right? Like
Hmm.
in the minds of our clients, and we have to own this. And it's like if I finished a statement like a rock, with there's a brand that's stuck with people and the follow up, and we know, and it's put into our brain, and we have to do that
Hmm.
in sales and getting clients. We've got to own that space mentally with them. And if that's following up, or if that's, um, you know, creating an initial experience for people right out the gate, we have to own that space. And I do believe having really good customer service and doing our doing the whole process from beginning to end, from discovering what their needs are to um, delivering on those needs and then following up to make sure that they were met. Um, that's sales at its best if it
Hmm.
happens that way, and that's how we sell more, right? We get more referrals, we get
Yeah.
we get repeat customers. Following a sales process and adhering to that, you, you're gonna be better. It feels slower. It feels slower, right? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do discovery, and sometimes transactions are obviously just really quick, and
Hmm.
it's if I'm running a pizza joint or if I'm selling clothing to somebody, whatever, those are fast, right? But we can also upsell, like you talked about in those scenarios. Um, but making sure that the customer's happy and happy afterwards and retaining them
Yep.
afterwards.
So
And it's a sales process, and adhering to that is so essential.
it is. It is.
And
So
then owning
let's
that
go
as a
flip that.
company or a business, right? Like, this is our process. This is how we do sales. Owning that and then adhering to
Making sure you have a sales process is 101, right?
it.
So
Well,
let's go
selling
flip
to
that.
more clients, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, so we just talked about a few things around retention, the reach out, the ask, the follow up, all those things are critical. But let's say your number one goal is, I want to add an additional 25 new clients this week, this month. Okay.
This one.
Um, First thing I would say is great. Who are they? You had kind of mentioned some of this prior and said when we talk about the clarity up front and knowing who your clients are, that's critical. Knowing who you're targeting is even more critical. And here's what I mean by that. And here's a really, I'll say, relatively simple way to go about figuring this out. When I ask my customers and my clients, who are your ideal clients? You want to have 25 new ones? Great, that's perfect. Who are they? And they're like, what is their name, like John, Tim, Sally, Joan? I'm like, no, but I mean, like,
Are they
where are
male,
they?
female?
I mean, it's not necessarily their demographic per se, but I'm like, well, how do you even go about figuring that out? They're like, oh, I mean, whoever walks in the shop. I'm like, okay, is that real? No, it's not. So what I like to do is I like to make sure you utilize the data that you have at your fingertips, right? We all have customer logs. We all know buying histories and cycles. But I don't think enough people do the grunt work to really leverage that data. I'm a data guy. I love my analytics. Um, I want to be specific. So I ask people to go through their book of business and let's see if we can't have some high level categories or structures of people, buying types, etc. Let's identify some patterns. Why is that so important? It's really easy because it helps you get some clarity on who these people are. If there's a certain type of people that is buying during a certain time of year, for instance, then it's like, okay, well, that time of year is coming up. Let me go target those people. You constantly hear me say, Mike, if you market to everyone, you market to no one. Well, let's get specific. So when you say who are your people, let's use the data that we've got in our past. You'd almost think there's a pattern here. Unlike, let's look back in order to go forward. Um, but that's what I'd like to do up front is have people give me some structure of the tendencies, the buying patterns. Where are these people? Are they buying one every 6 months? Are they buying in groups?
What
All of that pieces of data is important.
another question is like, what's their fiscal year? It's a huge question if we're selling to bigger businesses or cities
Yeah.
or even properties or whatever. Um, we need to know their fiscal year. When does your budget reset?
Mhm.
Because we need
Yeah.
to know when we're supposed to be selling to them before.
Well,
Do if it resets in July, which we just had a big reset in
mhm.
fiscal budgets, right? We should have been selling to them in March, April, May, so we're ready for July.
So you're saying knowledge is power, huh?
Data and knowledge is power. Getting that information and collecting it and utilizing it. I had this conversation with a client recently, and it's like, whoa, we got to um, dig through a lot of past information. You got
Mhm.
10 years of data that you haven't utilized to get your information you need for buying and your clients. What? Whoa.
I mean, I got a huge smile on my face as I may or may not be a part of a data analytics firm as well. So, hey,
Yeah.
it's fine. But I wholeheartedly agree that that is a path forward. So, in order to get new clients, let's establish who you've done with business in the past, and then you know what strategies have worked with them, what strategies have not worked. It's a great way to really kind of get that thing jump started. If you don't know where to begin and you don't know who to target and where to go, let's look back. What are some other tips or tricks or exercises or things that you like to go walk through in order to help answer this question of how do we get new?
I like to ask what's working. What are we
Okay.
doing that is getting us clients? What do we need to stop doing?
Ooh.
Because I see, and we talked about this a little bit on our last episode, is we could be throwing a lot of money at things marketing sales wise that aren't working. And
Yep.
we want them to work. It's a wishful thinking, but it's
Yep.
not working. We need to stop. And then let's get creative. I read a book called Unbranded. It's
Hmm.
the creator of Echo Clothing, and he was trying everything he could possibly do, and he trade shows, going out and doing marketing on the streets, and he tried so many different things and till it worked. So what are we trying that's new? And it's great to stick to the same old um what's working,
Mhm.
but we need to always be trying new things.
All right. So
And
trying new
if
things is
that's
great, but you have to be documenting what you are trying. You have to be laying out the expectations of what you are hoping to get out of those actions and then tracking the outcomes. If you're not doing that, then
results,
I'm sorry, Mike. It's like, saying let's be creative. Sounds great, right? What does that mean? How do we know? How do we evaluate? How do we judge?
yeah,
So I'm still gonna go back to trying new things is great, but you have to have a structure or else there's no rhyme or reason as to what you're doing, why you're doing it, or more importantly, how do you know it was working?
yep, yep. It's if we go to a new trade show, how many leads did we get from that? What leads did we get from that?
Mhm.
Um, and what value can we put on those leads? Or if we're having an inside salesperson, because I think a lot of companies go towards that, right? We have to get a virtual assistant or a salesperson. What results are we getting from that
Mhm.
salesperson?
Okay.
And what results are we expecting? And if we're not getting those results, pull the plug, right? So
Okay. So sticking with let's target new. Let's say we've gone down this path. We understand who's bought from us in the past. We understand how to go about evaluating what has worked with those types of people. Um, then what do we do next? How do we execute on it?
we have to have key performance things that we're tracking and looking for and results. And if the performance is happening and we're not getting the results, then we need to go back to and change what performance things and the things that we want from, whether
Yeah.
that's if the key performance is that we do a drip campaign and it goes out every week for an email. Well, what results are we getting, and is it getting us what we want?
Yep.
Or if we're doing X amount of sales calls, 25 existing client calls or 100 new client calls, what results are we getting from those? And where, and even to go even a step further, it's like go back to like where are we getting these leads or these, um, prospects, and are they the right
So
one?
I smiled when you answered like that because I was hoping that's where you were going to go. Basically, I'm going to boil it down into some really simple words. Set a sample size. So if you're going to evaluate and you're going to try to set some KPIs and you want to see if this is working or that's working, set a sample size. Evaluate five people within each of your different categories and say, all right, well, what did I get from it? And I'm not saying that five is the right magic number, so don't everyone jump on me and say, oh, well, it's not enough. Yeah, I know it's not. But I'm saying set the sample size, set the expectations. Um, and then know once you've gone out and you've marketed to X number of people, I'm going to continue to say five, just make everyone mad. Uh, then, then it's okay. Well, what did I get? What was my conversion rate? What was my close rate? What was my interest rate? And I don't mean, the Fed. I mean, so I sent out five messages to XYZ and one person got back to me, right? Or I called five people and one person had some interest. All right, well, then it's what were you saying? How were you saying it? How were you laying that hook out there so that someone could then, have some interest? Are you really hitting on their pain points? And that kind of leads me into this. If you're going to set your sample size, know what is, let's say, going to pique someone's interest within each of those different samples, each of those categories. Okay. So know your client, know their interests, know their pain points, know their emotional cues, their triggers, because you're trying to speak to one person individually, not a generalized populace. I think far too often we just cast that very, wide net and just hope that we're going to have some of those people within our population size. But that's not always the way it works.
So I guess kind of my final thoughts is we need to know who our client is. We don't
Mhm.
need to sell to the masses. We need
Yep.
to sell to our clients. We need to know
Sell to
who
your
they are,
targets.
and the results are going to be much greater if we're selling to the individuals or the businesses or whatever we're selling to, if we know who they are and hit them. If I'm selling my product in Ely, Nevada that is only available in Pleasant Grove, we made a mistake.
Yep.
Right? So we need to know who they are, get good leads and prospects, and really drill in and find the ways to get in front of them
Yep.
and find ways to sell to that market. So that's how we're going to sell more. Is it?
Absolutely.
And we're going to put less effort into selling to those targeted.
We could go down all kinds of different rabbit holes, but knowing that this is going to be a several part series, I'm saying let's
Yep.
go cap this because I'm
Yep.
about to go tee off on something else, which I'm going to be very excited when we do, but let's keep it simple.
Yep.
Very simple principles. And you know what? It all goes back to evaluating who you are and what you do as a business and who you're targeting. Even though we started this by saying all of our clients immediately want to jump into how do we grow and how do we do things, it always reverts back to the clarity aspect, knowing who you are, who you're selling to, what data you can point to from past historical transactions that help align your focus to hitting those new customer points. All right? Simple as that.
It's well said. We'll we'll let everybody go at that. And thanks for being on.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate your time, Adam, and thank you to everyone that's been watching and listening.
Perfect. Thank you.